Hey guys, welcome to part 4 of What If Naruto Was Insane Like Gaara. If you enjoy the video then like, share and subscribe and also comment your thoughts as it inspires me to make more such videos, and remember to check out my playlist section for other interesting stories. So let's get started. Chapter 24. Power. Hinata, shouldn't you be in the hospital? Shino asks as he came across his female teammate. Hinata smiled and shook her head. I was getting bored, so I asked a nurse if I could take a walk. Where are you headed? Hinata asks as she shifted on her crunch to a more comfortable position. I was looking for Anko-sensei. She was supposed to be back from her mission and I wanted her advice on a jutsu I'm trying to create. Shino explained. Well, do you mind if I join you? The nurse said I don't have to be back for another hour and I have nothing to do. Hinata said. Shino nodded and the two were just about to walk when Neji landed in front of them. Hinata. Aburame. The Hyuga addressed as he brushed some dirt off his shoulder. Hyuga. Shino curtly responded. Neji ni-san, how are? Hinata began only for Neji to cut her off. We are not related. I am the heir to the Hyuga clan and you're just some banished trash. Neji growled. Hinata was about to respond when 4 crimson tails shot out of the ground and grabbed Neji's arms, and Neji could try and escape. Another pair of chakra tails shot out and pierced through his knees. Neji fell to the ground with a cry of pain and the chakra tails holding his arms pulled forward, forcing Neji into a bow. You are a humble man, Neji-san, bowing to some banished trash. I see the Hyuga made a good choice in replacement heirs. Hinata and Shino turned to see Naruto leaning against a building with his arms crossed over his chest. 6 crimson tails of chakra were coming out of his lower back and plunging into the ground below him. Naruto glared at Neji and the tails of chakra released him and retracted back into his body. Shino, could you heal his knees? Naruto asked as he walked up to his 2 teammates. The Aburame nodded and walked over to the prone Neji. Shino's hands were engulfed in a green hue before he placed them over Neji's knees. Moments later, Shino released the jutsu and walked back over to Naruto and Hinata. Gaki, I don't know what crap the old man let you get away with, but once I'm named Hokage, if I ever catch you injury a fellow ninja again, you'll be suspended so fast your head will spin. Tsunade said as she, Jiraiya and Shizune with tauntaun in her hands walked up to the group. Whatever. Naruto replied. Tsunade-sama, you're back and you're going to be our next Hokage. Hinata acts in shock. The blonde Sannin nodded casually before turning to Naruto. So kid, on a different note, who are these two? Tsunade acts as she eyed Neji slowly getting up and glaring daggers at the 3 genin before walking off. This is Shino Aburame, heir the Aburame clan and medic of her team. Naruto said, pointing to Shino, who bowed at his introduction. And she is the reason I took your bet. This is Hinata Hyuga and you're going to heal her arm and leg. So you're the Gaki's girlfriend? Tsunade surmised. Hinata blushed faintly and nodded. Nicely done, kid, she's quite the catch. Well, come on, let's go to the hospital so I can check you out. Wait, Hinata, I got you something. Close your eyes. Naruto said before they could leave. Hinata complied and a few seconds later she felt something hanging around her neck. Hinata opened her eyes and looked down and saw a brilliant crystal dangling on a string necklace. It's beautiful. Hinata murmured, wrapping her good arm around Naruto's neck. Leaning forward, Hinata planted a kiss on the blonde's lips before releasing Naruto, a light blush gracing her lips. Come on, I don't have all day. Tsunade said as she began to walk off. With a small wave, Hinata followed the Sannin to the hospital with Shizune at her side. Well, I have to go too. Naruto, I want you to visit a man named Tauron Matsushi. I saw your fight with Kabuto and your swordsmanship is almost vomit-inducing. Tauron is the owner of the weapons shop by the barbecue restaurant over in the market district. Ask him if he'll teach you the ways of the sword, and if he refuses, tell him I said if he does it we're even. Jiraiya said before he left with Konoha's traditional shunshin. I really must locate Anko-sensei now. Goodbye, Naruto. Shino said as his body fell to the ground in a mass of bugs that scattered across the ground. Tauron Matsushi, huh? Naruto murmured as he walked off in the direction of the market district. As Naruto walked and was left alone with his thoughts, Naruto began to think about his drastic change in demeanor over the last year to being assigned to a genin team. The blonde's bloodlust almost matched the kitsune demon he harbored, yet as of late the need to kill had waned slightly. Hell, Naruto had been moments from ripping Gaara's heart from his body when he had simply stopped. Why? All the answer led to his teammates and more importantly the midnight hare Hyuga, who claimed to love him. Love really does make you weak. Naruto said to himself as he entered the local weapons shop. So distracted by his thought Naruto almost didn't hear a voice call him. How may I help you? Naruto's eye snapped to a muscular red-headed man standing behind the counter. Are you Toran Matsushi? Naruto asks. The man's eye narrowed as he focused on Naruto with a critical eye. After a moment a look recognition spread across the man's face. Naruto for a second thought a smirk spread across his but it was gone faster than it had appeared. Who wants to know? The man asked fixing Naruto with an even gaze. My name is Naruto Uzumaki and I came to ask you if you could train me to use this. Naruto stated as he pressed two fingers on his chest and added some chakra in a cloud of smoke. Kubikiribocho appeared and Naruto caught the blade before it could even graze the ground. Toran's eyes widened upon figuring out whose sword he was looking at but he regained his composure after a few seconds. No. The man said simply. Jiraiya of the Sannin. Naruto started only for Toran to cut him off. It is not a matter of me being unwilling to train you but this blade unique only to Kiri the only man who could teach you how to use this blade to its full potential is dead if you're holding it right now. Toran explained. You mean Zabuza Momochi. Naruto stated more than axe. Correct, the use of these swords is taught from wielder to wielder. I could simply teach you how to properly fight with Kubikiribocho but the secrets this sword that are not public knowledge are lost forever. Toran finished remorsefully. I see. Naruto said. The blonde turned around and began to walk out the door but Toran's voice called him back. Uzumaki-san, come back. Toran said, causing Naruto to look over his shoulder. The blonde was surprised to see a devious smirk painted across the blacksmith's face. There is a way for me to discover the secrets hidden within the weapon if you are willing. Toran said. What is it? Naruto asks. You see, with a weapon like this the powers it has are not engraved into the blade but the metal itself. If I were to smelt the blade down and study its metal in their raw form I could discover any capability it holds. Toran explained. Once I finish my research I could recreate Kubikiribocho to my best ability then train to use it to its fullest. Naruto nodded until an idea popped into his head. After you melted it down and studied the metal you would also form a different weapon, correct? What did you have in mind? Toran asks. Naruto leaned over and murmured something to Toran which drew out a grin from the man. I see you are an interesting one, Naruto. I will have it ready in a month. Until then I shall train you into a swordsman that would have made your mother proud. Toran stated. The only sign that Naruto was surprised was a slight raise in one of his eyebrows. You trained my mother? Naruto asks. Indeed. Toran replied. She along with the fathers of two genin in the year before you were part of my genin team. You may know them, Tenten and Rock Lee. I know of them. Naruto said. Well enough chit chat, follow me, your training begins now. Toran said, walking to a door behind the counter. Konoha Hospital. Tsunade let out a frustrated sigh as she stood in front of Roshi Yakushi. After she had healed Kakashi Hatake and Sasuke Uchiha she checked on Hinata only to be disheartened by the findings. While there was a procedure Tsunade could perform to heal the girl the chances of success were slim and that was being generous. Yet instead of stressing over the girl she pushed it slightly to the side and pondered over the abilities of the current medical corps. For results she went to one Roshi Yakushi, adoptive father of recent traitor Kabuto and current captain of the medical corps. The captain of the medical corps and blonde Sannin had just finished discussing the status of the medical shinobi in Konoha and frankly Tsunade was appalled. You can't be serious with these numbers, Roshi. Tsunade asks as she glanced through some files that sat in front of her. I'm afraid so. There has been an almost 35% decrease in the medical shinobi we have in over the last 12 years. Roshi replied. Tsunade groaned again. Right now she would have given anything for a bottle of sake. But that's not the worst part. The training of our medical corps has deteriorated since the Kyuubi's attack. Though in honesty the same could be said about the academy training since then. Roshi added. Something will be done, but for now I want you to tell me about any promising recruits. I could use a little good news. Tsunade said, rubbing her temples with her thumb and middle finger. Well, there's not too many above average ninja we have in the corps right now, but I do know of one. Roshi said. Tsunade gestured for the man to continue and he smirked before he did. One Shino Aburame is probably the best medic nin I seen since you. But that's not the best part, he's completely self-taught. The kid picked up medical ninjutsu after seeing his teammates begin to specialize in something. Naruto Uzumaki is grazing the basics of fuinjutsu while Hinata Hyuga had a bit genjutsu training before her injuries. The kid's a natural if a little rough around the edges. With proper train I dare say he might surpass you. Tsunade instantly remembered the introductions one blonde Jinchuriki had given her before she made her way to the hospital. The Sannin smirked and stood from her seat. I see, well, that's all, you're dismissed. Roshi nodded before walking out the room he and Tsunade were in. Tsunade stood and followed him out before heading to the Hokage Tower, yet the entire time one name continued to float around her mind. Shino Aburame. Konoha Hospital 3 weeks later. One Sasuke Uchiha was pissed. No, pissed did not do any justice to the intense fury that was blazing inside just behind his calm collected expression. The lone Uchiha had been ready to leave the hospital weeks ago, yet had been kept for almost a month to do some psychological tests to determine if he was mentally stable enough to return to shinobi duty. As the days went by, Sasuke's growing restlessness was only fueled by the words of his older brother and nightmares of his family getting murdered every time he slept. Then when he was released and finally able to train again, the last straw had come in the form of his test results. He had failed with flying colors and would be on probation until he completed 90 hours of mental therapy with the approved psychiatrist Tama Yamanaka. Even if he were to do the max 2 hours per day, he would be restricted from training for around a month and a half. You seem upset. Sasuke's eyes shot into the trees above him and found the silhouettes of 4 figures standing among the branches. The Uchiha barely registered he had walked on to the training ground of Team 7 before he darted into the trees. Whoever was up there had picked the wrong time to catch him by surprise. In an instant, Sasuke had his arm elbow deep into one of their chests, the chirping of birds ringing throughout the area. Just a little. Sasuke replied, the seal containing the curse seal broken and the flame-like markings already covering half his face. With a slight tug, Sasuke pulled his arm out of the body and watched as the corpse fell off the branch into the ground below. Well, that was pretty impressive, you almost caught me off guard. Sasuke turned around to see the body of the person he just killed standing with his arms crossed. There wasn't a scratch on him and he just pointed to the ground. Sasuke glanced down to see a log with a charred hole through it on the ground. You don't seem like you're worth the trouble Orochimaru-sama is going through to get you. The person asks. Stepping into the light so Sasuke could finally see him, the person revealed himself to be a teen, maybe only a few years older than Sasuke. He was extremely pale with dark gray hair. The boy sported turquoise lipstick, brown eyeliner, and a matching brown bead necklace. Yet the strange hump on his back was the only thing Sasuke really took note of. I'm Saken, part of Orochimaru's Elite Sound 4, and we are here to offer you an opportunity of a lifetime. Saken said just before the remaining 3 members of the Sound 4. A large teen, who could have claimed to be the relative of an Akamaiki, with orange hair, stood with a blank face. Next to him was a small red-haired girl with a beanie on her head. On the other side of Saken was easily the strangest member of the group. A tan-skinned teen with 3 pairs of arms. What kind of offer? Sasuke asked as the curse seal retreated back into its place of origin. Orochimaru-sama has the power you want, the power you need to accomplish your goals. This village is holding you can unlock your full potential. Saken said, smirking as he watched Sasuke allow himself to be sucked into the force that was Orochimaru's will. How do I know you're not just lying? Sasuke asks. You can't, but what is making you stay in this shit-stained village? Saken was about to agree when an image of a girl with platinum blonde hair appeared in his head. Then when Sasuke finally felt the power to resist, another image flooded his mind. Itachi and his blade still soaked in their parents' blood, standing calmly in the carnage he had single-handedly created. Sasuke felt his blood boil when Itachi came to mind. The fury was so intense any thoughts about the young Yamanaka heiress was burned along with most of his rational thought. Nothing. Sasuke growled. Good, then pack anything you might need, we're going to leave tonight. We'll be at the East Gate. Saken instructed as he and the other members of the Sound 4 faded out of existence. Konoha 0500 next day. Tsunade-sama, please open the door. Sakura shouted, banging on the doors to the Hokage's office. The distraught genin eyes were red and puffy and there were still stains on her cheeks from tears. Flashback. Sasuke-kun, where are you going? Sakura asks. The pink-haired Kunoichi asks. Sasuke turned around and glared at Sakura. Caught off guard by the sudden intense hostility, Sakura flinched back. None of your business. Sasuke spat. Sakura's blood froze at the Uchiha's harsh words. You're leaving the village, aren't you? You're going to become a missing ninja. Sakura asked when she noticed the Avenger wasn't wearing his Hinata. Smart as ever, aren't we, Sakura? So what are you going to do? Alert the authorities? Sasuke asked, his expression darkening by the second. Sakura hesitated to answer. No, but take me with you. Sakura asked, tears welling in her eyes. Please, if you leave I wouldn't know what to do. Sasuke, I love you. Sasuke watched with disdain as tears began flowing out of Sakura's eye. You're pathetic, Sakura. I would never take you with me. You already slow me down on our regular genin team. Why would I want you slowing me down when I leave? Beside, I've been with Ino since the genin exams. What? Sakura murmured. Yeah, personally I didn't care who knew, but Ino didn't want you to get hurt when you found out. Sasuke stated. The young kunoichi stood shocked still. How do you think she lasted so long against that Suna genin? She trains with me when she not busy. No. Sakura whispered, refusing to believe Sasuke's words. Like I said, pathetic. Sasuke said, rolling his eyes. The next instant Sasuke was in front of Sakura. Before she could react, Sasuke drilled his fist into her stomach. The pink-haired girl crumpled to the ground unconscious, and Sasuke rolled his eyes before he walked off. End flashback. Shizune, I need Shikamaru Nara 10 minutes ago. Tsunade shouted to her assistant. Shizune nodded and she was gone while Sakura looked to the Hokage. What's going to happen to Sasuke-kun? Sakura asks. Tsunade sighed and stood from her desk. The blonde Hokage stared out the window before she addressed Sakura. Uchiha will be named a missing ninja and handled as such. Tsunade finally answered. But Hokage-sama, it's not him, it's the curse seal. Sakura defended. Tsunade spun around and leveled Sakura with an icy glare. The young kunoichi flinched away from her cold look. Sakura, currently Sasuke is one of 2 people in the village that are marked with the heaven curse mark. I won't tell you the other, but he or she has never once let the mark affect their loyalty to this village. If Sasuke is being manipulated by the curse mark, then it's only because he's only allowed himself to be lured into Orochimaru's false promises for power. Tsunade growled. Now Haruno-san, please see yourself out of my office. Sakura nodded and hastily retreated out of the Hokage office, nearly bumping into Shikamaru on her way out. Shikamaru, you're here. Good, I have an urgent mission for you. Tsunade said, not even giving the young Chunin a chance to sit down. Uchiha Sasuke has fled the village in an attempt to seek power from notorious traitor Orochimaru. You are to gather the forces you can and retrieve the traitor Uchiha. Lethal force is permitted. Hokage-sama, is right for me to assume Uchiha is being escorted to Orochimaru by Oto Ninja? Shikamaru asks. We can't confirm it, but it's likely since Sasuke has no way of knowing how to get to Oto alone. Tsunade answered. Well then, I would like of a team of highly capable Junin and Chunin to assist me of my retrieval mission. Shikamaru acts on to hesitate when Tsunade sighed and shook her head. Unfortunately, we don't have enough shinobi available for me to grant your request right now. You only limit it to the best genin you can find. Tsunade replied. What about Chunin Shino Aburame and Chunin Naruto Uzumaki? Shikamaru asks. Unfortunately, Shino left with his father left in search of a rare insect that took them clear across Wind Country. He isn't scheduled to return for another few months. Naruto Uzumaki is also away. He and Anko Mitarashi left yesterday to bring supplies to Shinobi on border patrol. They should be back later today. I will send Naruto and Anko to back you up when they return. Valley of End 1900. Next day. Sasuke. The traitorous ninja turned around to see Kiba Inuzuka and Akamaru standing atop the head of the Shodai Hokage's statue. He himself stood atop the head of his ancestor and the co-founder of Konoha, Madara Uchiha. Kiba had a deep scowl carved into his face, yet it only amused the Uchiha as he let out a small chuckle. You bastard, why did you try and leave Konoha? Kiba growled. Simple, I needed power to defeat Itachi and Konoha was only holding me back. Sasuke said. But Orochimaru has promised me the power I need and I accepted. You know, I may not be the smartest person, but even to me that sounds stupid. Kiba replied. Sasuke fixed Kiba with a look of confusion, and this time it was Kiba who chuckled. I may have been young, but I know Itachi murdered the entire Uchiha clan before he left Konoha, so didn't he acquire his strength in Konoha? You're right, you're not the brightest, so I wouldn't expect you to understand. Sasuke replied. The youngest living Uchiha turned around and began walking away, yet Kiba didn't take kindly to being ignored. The Inuzuka jumped off the Shodai's head toward Sasuke with his fist cocked back. Sasuke turned around just in time to receive a fistful of knuckles that sent him shooting into the water below. Shikamaru, Choji, Neji, and Lee all stayed behind so I could bring you back, and their sacrifice won't for nothing. Sasuke Uchiha, you're coming back even if it's in a body bag. Kiba said as he watched the water explode as Sasuke impacted its surface. After a moment the water simply steadied, yet Kiba's eyes never left its surface. Suddenly Akamaru growled and Kiba spun around to see a drenched Sasuke grinning at him. I am going to enjoy killing you, the Uchiha murmured. Kiba growled and Akamaru hopped out of his jacket. Sasuke simply crossed his arms and watched as Kiba fed Akamaru a soldier pill. The dog turned red and became more feral in appearance. You finished yet? Sasuke asked, bring his hand up to cover a yawn. Kiba growled and crouched down, allowing Akamaru to jump on his back. Ninja art. Man-beast clone. Kiba shouted before he and Akamaru were engulfed in a cloud of smoke. When it cleared, Akamaru had transformed into Kiba and the both took on feral traits. Yet before they could react, Sasuke was in front of them. The Uchiha kicked Kiba out from the transformed Akamaru before drilling his elbow into the airborne clone's head. Akamaru hit the ground with a sickening crack before Sasuke phased in above of the still soaring Kiba's body. Kiba only had time to gasp before Sasuke punched the Inuzuka down to the water, causing it to erupt into the air twice as high when Sasuke fell in. Seconds later Sasuke landed atop the water's surface and waited for Kiba to resurface. Is that all you have? If so, you might want to just give up now. Sasuke mocked, only to jump into the air to avoid the miniature tornado that was Kiba's Suga. Right at the apex of his jump, Sasuke twisted in the air to avoid Akamaru, who also used the Suga jutsu. As he fell, Sasuke fell. He continually twisted his body at impossible angles to avoid being hit by Kiba and Akamaru. Chidori! Sasuke shouted when he hit the water. The Sharingan user's right arm was instantly engulfed in lightning and he thrust it into the one of the drills. Instantly their spin was halted and the mangled form of Kiba fell onto the water, only to become engulfed in smoke on Akamaru's dead body to sink into the water below. Akamaru! I kill you! Kiba voice shouted from the other drill. Sasuke smirked and motioned for Kiba to come. Kiba stopped spinning and rushed blindly at the Uchiha. Sasuke smirked and evaded easily as Kiba began to strike wildly at him. After a few minutes Sasuke tripped Kiba and his arm was engulfed in lightning again. Kiba turned around just in time to see Sasuke punch his arm through his chest. Kiba, stunned, looked down to see the Uchiha's arm in his chest before Sasuke ripped it out. Thanks, now that I killed you, the Mangekyo Sharingan is mine. Sasuke murmured, yet his eyes showed no change. Wow, killing Konoha shinobi now are we? A voice called out. Sasuke growled and turned to the new arrival. You're the last one who can judge, Naruto. Sasuke growled as his crimson eyes looked into the red eyes that were visible underneath Naruto's hood. The Jinchuriki smirked, but Sasuke couldn't see it. Oh, I'm not judging, but you know your life is forfeit when I take you back to the village. Not that I was going to take you back alive anyway, Naruto said as a clone appeared next to him. Sasuke tensed as the clone casually dove into the water, yet it simply came out a few seconds later with Kiba in his arms, before it headed off in the direction of Konoha. He's going to die before he makes it back to Konoha, Sasuke stated, only for Naruto to shrug. Not my problem. My orders were to bring back all involved in this mission, Naruto said as he pulled out 2 kunai from his pouch. That includes you, and unfortunately for you it doesn't seem like you'll make back alive either. Sasuke tensed as Naruto vanished in a burst of speed. Yet he was unable to prevent Naruto from cutting into his arm. Before Sasuke could counter, Naruto was gone again. Sasuke growled as he held his arm and began looking around for Naruto, yet all he could see was the occasional red blur. Slowly more cuts began to appear on his body until Sasuke began to draw out power from the curse seal. Instantly the cuts were replaced by the fire-like markings that spread across him. When the markings stopped, Naruto became visible to Sasuke just in time for him to duck under a slash that would have decapitated him. It seems we're even in power now, Sasuke replied. Naruto stopped and rolled his eyes. You will never be my equal, Naruto retorted coolly. As the blonde declared that he began to pull out more of Kyuubi's chakra. The blonde's nails extended, his hair became even more wild and his whisker marks darkened. Naruto growled before was gone. Sasuke smirked as he watched Naruto approached. The Uchiha brought an arm to block but Naruto's fist seemed to just slip through and hit him square in the jaw. Sasuke stumbled back but Naruto wasn't giving the Uchiha any time to breathe. Sasuke attempted to block a hook from Naruto but once again Naruto seemed to phase through his guard and the Uchiha went skipping across the water. How? Sasuke asked as he stood up uneasily. You're a genius Uchiha, don't tell me you forgot this lesson already. Naruto stated as he walked over to Sasuke. Even if you can see my actions, if your body isn't fast enough to react, those eyes you care about so much are worthless. No. I won't lose to you. I'm going to kill you. Sasuke shouted just before he undertook another transformation. The Uchiha was engulfed in the black flame marking and suddenly two hand-like wings sprouted out of his back tearing off his shirt. The markings on Sasuke's body dulled until his skin became a dull gray. The Uchiha's hair also lengthened and a cross-like mark appeared on the bridge of his nose. This power. Sasuke murmured, flexing his arms to get a feel for his new strength. With it, killing Itachi will be too easy. It's a shame you won't live long enough to test that theory. Naruto stated, his now crimson face paralyzing white eyes barely a foot from Sasuke. Sasuke only could widen his eyes in shock before Naruto unleashed a barrage of strikes that he could barely. Sasuke attempted to block some hits but that only resulted in a snap in the air alerting the two. Naruto had indeed broken his arms. Soon the smell of burning flesh made Sasuke realize that each hit had also been burning his skin away. What was only a few minutes seemed to drag on like for eternity for Sasuke as his body was racked with indescribable pain. And then it ended with Naruto ripping Sasuke's newfound wings straight out of his back. Sasuke collapsed to the ground, his mind barely on the edge of consciousness. It seems you and I aren't equal. Naruto stated only to look off in the distance and growl. I guess you will live to see another day Uchiha, but with all good things it comes with a price. Naruto grinned as Kyuubi's chakra retracted back into his seal and he pulled out a kunai and sealing paper from his pouch, his other two kunai long since forgotten. Kneeling down, Naruto used the kunai to rip out Sasuke's left eye. The traitor would have screamed but his shattered ribs only allowed him to emit something of a wheezing cough. Now even I will feel bad about this. Naruto murmured before he used the bloody kunai to remove the one thing from Sasuke that made him a man. This time, even despite his injuries, Sasuke let out a shrill scream that frightened all nearby wildlife away. Naruto paid it no mind as he quickly sealed away Sasuke's eye and genitals before hopping back. As soon as he did this, Kabuto and Orochimaru appeared beside the crippled Uchiha. Sasuke-kun, since you didn't know, I'll forgive you but never make me wait. Orochimaru hissed a smirk on his until he glanced down at the Uchiha. Without a single command, Kabuto was on his knees attempting to heal Sasuke. Enjoy your broken toy, Naruto stated before he was engulfed in flames. Orochimaru's roar of fury was heard all across the elemental nations. Chapter 25. Nobody is invincible. Report. Tsunade ordered as Naruto walked into her office. The blonde reached into his weapons pouch and pulled out a scroll before sitting down across from Tsunade. Mission failed, Naruto replied. Tsunade glanced at the scroll before returning her gaze to Naruto. Uchiha Sasuke was neutralized and I was prepared to return him to the village, but I sensed two powerful chakra signatures approaching. Instantly I knew they were Orochimaru and Kabuto, and while I may have been able to handle Kabuto, I know Orochimaru is out of my league. Faced with the options of trying to grab Sasuke and make it back to the village before those two caught up with me or escape, I took the more reasonable choice, but I did bring you a present. Really? Is that what's in this scroll? Tsunade asked, twirling the scroll between her fingers. Naruto nodded and watched as the blonde Hokage opened up the scroll. Oh my goodness, Tsunade murmured as her eyes fell upon Sasuke's genitals and the eyeball. Quickly sealing up the object, Tsunade leveled Naruto an even stare. You are one twisted little shit, aren't you, Gaki? Though I can't complain, you may have just saved the Uchiha clan for Konoha, but why only one eye? It's simple if you think about it actually. Orochimaru is after the Sharingan eyes, not just Sasuke specifically. Had I taken both eyes, his focus would have been on the one who has what he wants, not the body of a broken Uchiha. So since Sasuke still had a Sharingan, he still was of some use to Orochimaru, so he was more worried about keeping him alive than going after me. Naruto explained casually. Alright, well, unless there is anything else, you're dismissed. Tsunade stated. Naruto shook his head before walking out of the office only to bump into the Inuzuka matriarch, Sume. You Uzumaki, did you return with the traitor? She asked, making no attempt to hide her fury. No, I had to retreat when Orochimaru showed up. Naruto replied. Upon hearing his words, Sume's anger rose to new levels, but before she could explode, Naruto's next words calmed her down. If makes you feel better, I crippled far worse than you could have without being arrested. Boy, you are severely underestimate my imagination. Sume growled. I castrated him and removed an eye. Naruto retorted flatly. The Inuzuka head's anger instantly disappeared, yet an equally frightening grin spread across her face as she nodded and walked off. Naruto shrugged his shoulders as he walked off, only be cut off again before he exited the Hokage's building. Gaki, how it going? Naruto rolling his eyes as the large frame of Jiraiya appeared in his vision. Jiraiya just grinned. Well, it seems you still have a stick up your ass, so things must have been boring. Jiraiya replied. Actually, you missed the defection of the only Uchiha in Konoha. Naruto replied. A small smirk graced his lips when Jiraiya stumbled slightly. You should keep the jokes to the professionals, cause you're not funny, kid. Jiraiya replied, only to pale when Naruto didn't make any indication he was joking. When did this happen, Naruto? Jiraiya asked gravelly. About 4 hours ago. The blonde replied with a shrug. If Kabuto was able to keep the traitor alive, they should be in Oto territory by now. Keep him alive, Naruto, what happened? Jiraiya started, only to be cut off by Naruto. If you want details, ask Tsunade. I'm going home, Naruto stated before he was engulfed in flames. News of the Sasuke Uchiha's defection soon reached the ears of the Konoha populace within 2 days, and it instantly became the talk of the town. While most simple wrote Sasuke off as another bad apple like his brother, there was a large group who began to spin tales of the Uchiha's innocence in the matter. From those who claimed it was a ploy to hide Sasuke so he could train in seclusion, then when Tsunade was ready to retire he would return to take the mantle of Hokage. Though the heavily favored story was that Sasuke and Tsunade-sama planned this so Sasuke could get inside Oto so he could take it apart from the inside. Yet within the ranks of the Konoha shinobi, most if not all the ninja had dropped all relations with the traitor. 2 weeks later, Hokage Tower 1500. Tsunade-sama, why have you summoned us? Anko acts as Shino, and Naruto entered the Hokage's office. I have a mission that requires Team 8's skills. The busty Hokage stated as she spun around from looking out the window to the team in her office. Team 8 is a member short unless you have a substitute. Anko replied. The blonde Hokage smirked and glanced to Shizune, who was sitting down on a couch going over a few papers. Send her in. Shizune walked out and moments later returned with another. Naruto-kun. The Naruto turned around only to freeze as spotted Hinata standing behind him, but what surprised Naruto the most was that she was no longer sporting the crutches that he had almost grown accustomed to. The bandages that were usually wrapped around her arm and leg, like a cruel reminder of what he couldn't prevent, were gone, and now only her flawless, pale skin was visible. When did this happen? Naruto murmured as Hinata graced him with a brilliant crystal smile. Tsunade-sama operated the day you and Anko-sensei left on your mission. I got checked out last week. Hinata replied. In an instant Hinata had covered the distance and now had engulfed Naruto in a hug. Well, what are we, chopped liver? Anko said. Hinata blushed before releasing Naruto. Walking up to Shino and Anko, Hinata wrapped her arms around the two of them in a hug. It's good to have you back, princess. Anko said, patting Hinata on the head. Shino simply nodded in agreement. Well, now that this heartfelt reunion is over, I would like to discuss this mission with you. Tsunade stated. Instantly Team 8 was at attention with Anko in front, Naruto behind her, while Shino and Hinata stood to either side of him. Shizune, send M in. Moments later, a tall man no older Anko walked in. Modestly dressed in jeans and a white sweater. The man had spiky brown hair and a long scar over his right cheek. Seconds later, Yamato walked in with Team Guy trailing. My name is Chucho Maki. A woman by the name of Sakana Raito has taken control of my village Fuyu. She and her band of missing ninja easily defeated my elite guards and began running rampant. Sakura has declared herself queen, and with the use of her lightning sword she is ruling unopposed. Team 8, that's where you come in. Your mission is to eliminate Sakura Raito and her missing nin. Team Guy, with Yamato in place of Guy, your mission first and foremost is to protect Chucho. Your secondary mission is to aid Team 8 in eliminating Raito's gang of ninja. You are to leave at 0700 tomorrow. Tsunade instructed. Hinata, even though I would like you to rest after your surgery, I don't want to risk Team 8 handicapped without you. That being said, Anko, if you feel your team can handle this mission without her, pull Hinata out. With a nod, both teams exited the Hokage's office. Just as they were about to part ways, Neji glanced to Team and instantly found his gaze locked with Naruto. Is there a problem? Naruto asked, causing both groups to stop. Neji gazed shifted to Hinata. I'm looking at it. Neji replied, venom in his voice. In a heartbeat, Naruto had appeared right in front of Neji. No, I think you're mistaken. Now you're looking at it. Naruto growled, his face only a few inches in front of Neji. The Hyuga heir scoffed. Your arrogance blinds you. These eyes show me everything. Your flaws, your weaknesses, your fears. Nothing has escaped my eyes. You aren't a threat, Naruto, nor will you ever be one. Neji said, turning on his heels and walking away. After a moment of hesitation, Tenten and Lee followed after him. You know, something tells me one of those two is going to take a major blow to their ego by the end of this mission. Yamato murmured to Anko. What do you mean? Anko whispered back. Yamato shrugged and watched as Naruto motioned for Hinata and Shino to follow him, and the three walked off. I mean, Neji is just oozing with the Hyuga superiority bullshit, and Naruto's head has become so big he'll fall over if a strong wind blows by. If those two don't humble themselves soon, their egos might get them killed. Yamato explained. 0645 next day. The two groups stood at the village gates, waiting for their client and sensei. Naruto was sitting beneath a tree with a sleeping Hinata in his lap. Shino was sitting in a branch above the couple, inspecting a couple of insects that he had found. Across the gate, Team Guy stood preparing for their mission in a more conventional manner. Tenten was checking a few kunai and sharpening any she felt were too dull. Neji was walking through a few katas in Juken, while Lee was simply doing push-ups. Well, it's time to go, ladies, we need to get to Fuyu as soon as possible. Anko shouted as she, Yamato, and Chucho arrived at the gates. Moments later, both teams were outside the gate and heading north toward the village. So here's how we're going to do things. Anko said, drawing the attention of the party. My team will infiltrate Fuyu first, while you four and Chucho-san remain hidden outside the village. Once inside, my team will try and get an idea of what the situation is in the village and where Sakura is residing. So what are we supposed to do while you four are inside the village? Tenten asks. Our mission is to protect Chucho-san. So until Team 8 calls us in, we will remain outside and protect him. Yamato answered. Are you sure it is wise to leave the assassination of an A-rank missing ninja to a single genin cell? Neji murmured, glancing between Team 8. Naruto stepped in front of Neji and glared coldly at Hyuga Prodigy. Everybody else stopped and tensed, fearing what was going to happen. Don't worry about that, Hyuga, you do your job and we'll do ours. Naruto retorted. Neji returned Naruto's glare with one of his one, enhancing it by wordlessly activating his Byakugan. Our job is to protect the client, but we can't do that if we have to protect you as well, Uzumaki. Neji hissed. Naruto growled and his eyes turned red. Neji tensed and prepared to strike when Yamato intervened. That enough from both of you. Neji, this mission was assigned by the Hokage. You aren't questioning the Hokage's reasoning, are you? Yamato asked sharply. Neji regained his stoic face, then shook his head curtly and walked off. The rest of the group cautiously followed after the angered Hyuga. Naruto was about to walk off as well when Yamato grabbed his shoulder and stopped. Keep your temper in check, Ototo. Yamato said softly. Naruto glanced at Neji and sighed. The blonde turned back to Yamato and nodded. Yamato smiled before he and Naruto caught up to the group. Without Naruto and Neji clashing with each other, the 5-day journey was completed in a relative silence. The environment had subtly shifted from Konoha's warm, lush green forests to freezing snow-filled mountains. The village of Fuyu was located on Konoha's borders with the Land of Frost and was one of the few towns found in the Land of Fire that wasn't warm year-round. Alright, you guys know the plan, right? Anko asked as she took Team 8 to the side. Naruto-kun and I will enter the north side of the village posing as a young couple who wanted to take a vacation here. Hinata replied as Anko handed her 2 scrolls. Likewise, you and I will be infiltrating the village from the east gate later on tonight, sensei. Shino replied, taking a scroll from Anko. We will be imitating a pair of desolate siblings looking for employment. Right now Shino's bug will find whatever hotel you two find, just make sure it has some cheap rooms. Anko said. Naruto and Hinata both nodded and walked off and opened the scrolls, finding new outfits. The 2 young shinobi changed clothes before walking onto the path that led to the village. Naruto now wore a deep orange sweater, a heavy black zip-up hooded jacket, black jeans, and black boots. On his back Naruto wore a large backpack that was filled with clothing and necessities for traveling through the lands. Hinata was wearing a thick lavender cardigan jacket, lavender earmuffs, blue jeans, and matching lavender boots. Both teens sported wedding rings that shined as the late afternoon sun bounced off them. As they approached the gates to the village, 2 men jumped out in front of them brandishing 2 plain katanas. Hinata pressed herself into Naruto, feigning fright while the blonde brought his other arm around her protectively. What are you doing around here? One goon asks. Me and my wife are going, we're planning to stay here on vacation. Naruto replied timidly. Really, you seem a little young to be a married couple. The other thug retorted. Naruto quickly noticed both were sporting kusa headbands that had been slashed through. We've been betrothed since birth. We were married as soon as we were both of age. Naruto answered. Please sir, let just stay the night somewhere in this village. It's cold, me and my wife have been traveling all day. You stay as long as you like. It's just that an attempt on our queen's life was attempted, so we're on edge. The first missing nin replied. Naruto nodded as the goons stepped back and he and Hinata walked inside the village. Inside, the 2 were shocked to find the village looked very peaceful. Despite a band of missing ninja having taken over, people seemed completely at peace. Families walked around with smiles and children played in the snow like nothing out had ever happened. It's very peaceful here, isn't it, Naru-kun? Hinata asked softly. To anybody listening to her, it would seem like Hinata was asking a simple question, but Naruto instantly understood the deeper meaning. It is Hina-hime. I wouldn't mind staying here for a while. Naruto murmured. Hinata nodded and leaned her head on Naruto's shoulder. The 2 walked around the village leisurely until they came across a small hotel. Naruto and Hinata walked inside and were immediately met by a man wearing a simple green employee uniform. Welcome to the Yukigumo Inn, can I take your backpack, sir? The man asked, gesturing to the bag cumbersome pack on Naruto. No, I'll be fine, could you just direct us to the check-in desk? Naruto asks. The man nodded and led Naruto and Hinata to a small desk near the back of the lobby. He walked behind the desk and began typing on the small computer on it. Room for 1. The man asked, taking his eyes off the computer and look at the duo. Yes, please. Naruto replied. May recommend the lover's suite. The man asked, and for the first time since Team 8 was formed, Hinata glowed a vibrant crimson and fainted. Naruto caught her before she could hit the ground. Lifting her up bridal style, Naruto turned to the employee at the desk. Just a regular room, please. Naruto said. The man nodded before turning to a cupboard with keys in little slot. Glancing around, the man picked one before tossing it to Naruto. With both his hands occupied holding Hinata, Naruto, acting purely on instinct, caught the keys with his teeth. Nice catch. Naruto mumbled out a thank you before asking how much the room was. The man just waved him off. Tonight's on me, have a nice stay. The man replied. Naruto nodded before he carried Hinata off to their room. After running into another worker and asking where his room was located, Naruto found himself standing outside a room located on the other side of the hotel. Gently adjusting Hinata's unconscious body in his arms, Naruto managed to open the door and get inside. It was at that moment Hinata's eye opened. How was your nap? Naruto asked as he laid Hinata down on the bed before taking a seat next to her. It was nice. Hinata replied distantly. Naruto-kun, did you feel something off as we walked around the village? Yeah, for a village that just encountered a hostile takeover, they seem to be extremely content. Naruto replied. I thought so too, we should bring it up when we regroup with Anko-sensei and Shino-kun. Hinata replied. Naruto nodded before laying back on the bed. Hinata snuggled against him, causing Naruto to glance down at her. To his surprise, she had fallen asleep seconds already and had unconsciously latched onto him. Naruto shrugged before wrapping an arm around Hinata and drifting off to sleep as well. The next morning, Hinata and Naruto woke up to the shimmering rays of sun that snuck past their curtains. Naruto, being the closest one to the window, woke first. The blonde's eyes fluttered open and he yawned loudly, awaking the slumbering Hinata in his arms. "Morning, Naruto-kun," Hinata murmured as she sat up. Naruto yawned again before closing his eyes in an attempt to go back to sleep. "Come on, we have to find Anko-sene and eat." The Hyuga couldn't finish before Naruto's arms shot up and around her before bringing her down to him. "Come on, 5 more minutes," Naruto murmured, already half asleep. Hinata was about to reply when a knock on the door drew their attention. Hinata activated her Byakugan only to relax and deactivate it. "It's Anko-sensei and Shino." Naruto nodded and a clone popped into existence. The clone walked to the door and opened, revealing Anko and Shino garbed in what could barely be considered rags. Anko was wearing an old faded sweater with so many patches in it the thing could have been made from a quilt. Shino was wearing a thick jacket that had rips and tears that revealed a dingy gray turtleneck underneath. "How are you two lovebirds doing?" Anko asked as she and Shino walked in the room, closing the door behind them. Naruto grumbled something about good-for-nothing sensei and lack of sleep before he sat up. Hinata slid into Naruto's lap before she turned to address Ano. "Anko-sensei, something feels off here," Hinata said. Anko nodded and sat down in a chair in the room. "Yeah, we noticed too," the snake mistress retorted. "For a village that just experienced hostile takeover, it seems very content." Shino added. "So do think Chucho lied to us?" Naruto asks. "Definitely. I think it's a trap," Anko replied. "So what do you suggest we do?" Hinata asks. Shino adjusted his glasses and a small smirk seemed to seep past his mask. "Spring the trap." Outside Fuyu 1 week later. "How long does it take to come up with a plan?" Chucho murmured as he and Team Guy sat around a fire camping tent set up behind them. Knowing that team of incompetent shinobi, they might not be in the village yet. Neji scoffed. Tenten and Lee sighed, but Yamato finally snapped, having dealt with a week of Neji's superior attitude. "Tell me, Hyuga-san, how are they incompetent when they have a 100% success rate?" Yamato asked calmly. "They completed less than 10 missions. Any fool can get lucky a few times," Neji replied. Yamato nodded. "I suppose you're right, but tell me, if that team is so incompetent, why are 2 of them already promoted to Chunin while you, yourself, are still a genin?" Yamato asked just as calmly as before. "Truthfully, the Hokage has a personal attachment to Uzumaki and Shino-san. Uzumaki did help bring her back, while Shino-san is a fellow medic nin. Personal, I doubt their skill or lack thereof had much to do with their promotions," Neji replied, while Yamato just stood in disbelief. Even Tenten and Lee looked appalled by what the Hyuga prodigy had just said. "Is that true? I heard Konoha was an honorable ninja village. The way you speak, it sounds like your Hokage is guided by personal vendettas," Chucho said, drawing attention away from Neji instantly. His frustration at Neji's constant arrogance had made Yamato forget about their client for a moment. Yet before he could respond, a small toad hopped into the campsite. "Yo, Naruto sent me. They have a plan," the small toad croaked. "What do they need us to do?" Yamato asks. "Tonight, after they eliminate Sakana Raito, they will need your help getting rid of her missing nin Miltia. They said on Naruto's signal, be ready to enter the village and take down all foes," the toad said. "What's the signal?" Tenten asks. The toad turned to her and seemed to smirk. "You'll know." With those words, the small toad was engulfed in a cloud of smoke which cleared to show he was gone. "Team Guy, check your equipment. I want this camp packed up and everybody ready to move in 15 minutes. Yamato ordered as turning to face the direction of the village. Fuyu 2300 hour. Fox Lord to Moon Princess and Insect Charmer, are you in position? Naruto murmured into his mic. The blonde stood on a roof across the street from what was Sakana place of residency. An enormous castle-like mansion that was situated in the center of the village. Surrounding the entire of the estate was a large wall that was at least 20 feet high. The only way for somebody to get in was the gate that was being watched by 2 guards. Even a shinobi would be hard-pressed to sneak over the wall, as there were missing ninja space to top the wall, watching for incoming attacks. This is Insect Charmer. We're in position. On your mark, we'll rise to the surface and eliminate the target. Shino voice stated through his earpiece. Naruto turned to face Anko, who was twirling a kunai on her finger. You know, you three don't have a lot of subtlety when it comes to assassination missions. Anko said as her legs tensed, prepared to jump down. Subtle is boring, Naruto said as he grasped the hilt of a weapon sheathed in a large scabbard on his back. The scabbard was jet black with 9 red tails swirling around it until they met at the bottom to attach to a snarling kitsune. The scabbard was so large that it reached down to his thighs and was up a few inches above his head. Naruto smirked at Anko, then flooding Kyuubi's chakra into his mouth. Naruto unleashed a primal roar to the sky. The effect was instant. Every soul in the village turned to see Naruto's hooded form standing atop the roof. Children awakened by the roar cried out for their parents, while the adults stood paralyzed in fear yet mesmerized by the silhouette of Naruto as he casually pulled out the weapon that was hidden inside the scabbard. What's the difference? Anko said as she examined Naruto's sword. Held firmly in Naruto's hand was a slightly smaller version of Kubikiribocho. Naruto smirked as he grabbed the hilt and with his other hand. Once both hands were grasping the hilt, the blade began to shift. Anko and everybody else watched in shock as the once large Zanbato shifted into 2 katana. How the hell did you do that? Anko asks. I'll tell you later, Team Guy is here. Naruto said as he pointed down to the mansion entrance that was just blasted off its hinges by a large wooden projectile. Seconds later, a green blur flew through the opening, followed by Yamato, Neji, and Tenten at a more reasonable speed. Anko nodded and the two jumped down to the ground level and rushed through the opening in the gate. The instant the two made it within the mansion grounds, they found themselves surrounded by a 10 missing ninja. You shouldn't have come here. For trying to kill our queens, your punishment is death. One of the ninja said, pulling out a plain katana. Naruto turned to Anko, who simply grinned. Winner gets the most kills. Anko said, pulling out a kunai from seemingly thin air. Naruto didn't. Instead, he appeared in front of the missing ninja who had spoke, one of his katanas already impaling the man's chest. Before anybody could respond, Naruto's second blade had already decapitated the ninja next to him. Naruto ducked under a wild swing from one of the missing ninja and was about to counter when Anko appeared behind the ninja and stabbed her kunai through the base of his neck. Fire style. Fireball jutsu. Anko and Naruto turned to see an enormous fireball blazing toward them. The remaining 7 ninja watched as the two were engulfed by the jutsu. I can't believe they took out Shuko, Maki, and Dezu. Somebody murmured. Stay on guard, I doubt that killed them. Another growled. The guards suspicious were confirmed when a volley of kunai and shuriken came fly at them. 5 of the missing ninja were able to dodge, but the one who had spoken first and a woman next to him couldn't move fast enough and died painfully as the projectiles riddled their bodies. Naruto and Anko appeared in front of the remaining ninja, posed to strike when their attention was drawn to the mansion. A large blur shot of the mansion wall causing pieces to shoot everywhere. The object crashed into the outer wall and slumped to the ground, allowing everybody to see the bloody and battered form Shino. Well, I have to say you two were very impressive. Everybody turned from Shino to the hole in the mansion to see a woman holding Hinata off the ground by her throat. The woman had long white hair that flowed down to her waist. Her silver eyes and shapely body seemed to suck the air from every man's chest. She wore a sliver kimono dress with white fishes that seemed to swim about as the moonlight bounced off the dress. Let her go. Naruto growled, his eyes an intense crimson and Kyuubi's chakra flaring wildly around him. Well, since you act so nicely. The woman sang. Almost too fast to trace, the woman released Hinata and kicked her at Shino's still unconscious form. The female Hyuga cried out in pain as her body was sent flying at her teammate like a human cannonball. Moments before Hinata crashed into Shino, Naruto caught her, sliding back to reduce the force of their impact. Naruto looked down at Hinata, who now lay unconscious in his arms. Then Naruto's eyes wandered down to Shino's battered form. Your friends are strong, that's why I didn't kill them. The woman's melodic voice called out. You have killed my men and frightened the people of my village, but I don't want any more violence. Please take you friends and allies and leave this place. Sakana Raito, you're an A-ranked missing ninja wanted for deserting Yukigakure. We're under orders to eliminate you. Yamato said as he and Team Guy appeared in front of Sakana. Believe me when I say leaving Yuki was the last thing I wanted to do, but with Dodo Kazuhana taking over and killing all those loyal to his brother, I had no choice. Sakana replied. Regardless, you took over this village and as such have made yourself a threat to the land of fire. You can either submit now and the violence will end like you want, or you can. Quote. Yamato couldn't finish. In an instant Naruto was in front of Sakana, his katanas now reverted back to the form of Kubikiribocho he had revealed when had first unsheathed his weapon. Sakana reacted instantly and she pulled out what appeared to be the hilt of a sword from the pocket of her kimono. As Naruto swung Kubikiribocho, a yellow blade snapped out of the hilt Sakana was holding with a hum which she used to block with practiced ease. This young man is the Raijin no Ken. It belonged to your second Hokage judging by that Konoha hit I ate. Sakana said just as Naruto yelled as his entire body was shocked. Naruto jumped back while Sakana settled into a defensive stance. This sword is as unique as the one you hold. While yours has the ability to change shape, the Raijin is a blade of pure lightning. Sakana lectured much like a teacher would. As that's so, Naruto murmured as he focused his wind chakra into the blade. Don't for a second assume that using wind chakra will be enough to stop this blade. Despite being made of lightning, once activated this blade holds a solid shape. Your wind will keep you from being shocked but not from being outclassed. Sakana said calmly. Where did you get that sword? Yamato asks. Sakana didn't have time to respond as Naruto was upon her again. The snow hair kunoichi graceful weaved around Naruto's strikes, parrying those she couldn't block. You're quite good with that sword, but your anger holds you back. Sakana said as she and Naruto engaged in another blade lock. My anger fuels me, drives me to get stronger. Anger is all I am and all I need to survive. Naruto said as a shroud of chakra engulfed him and a single tail swayed behind him. Naruto blurred out of view, yet Sakana simply closed her eyes and relaxed. Faster than any of the other shinobi could track, Sakana ducked down, barely avoiding a slash that would have bisected her. The team guy and the missing ninja watched in awe as Sakana evaded and blocked all of Naruto's strikes, though he was nothing more than a blur, in some moments completely gone from sight. I had to open the gates to keep up with Naruto-kun at this speed. The woman is truly youthful. Lee said in awe. Lee, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I completely agree. Tenten said. Child, there is so much more to you than you know. Not just pain and anger. There is good, too. I feel it. When you can access all of that, you will possess a power no one can match. Not even me. Sakana said as she closed her eyes again. This time she spun around and thrust forward. Everybody watched in shock as Naruto appeared impaled through chest with her blade. Even more surprising, the blade had cut through the chakra tail that had moved in the way of the attack. Naruto coughed out a wad of blood as his chakra cloak dissipated. But for now you have a long way to go. As Naruto faded into unconsciousness, Sakana's words seemed to echo through his head and seemed to fuel the anger in his soul even more. Well boy, it seems your ego finally got the better of you. Kyuubi mocked as Naruto awakened next to the bars holding the beast at bay. What are you talking about? Naruto growled. Exactly what I said. For far too long you have assumed you can simply overpower your enemies. When you were defeated by Kabuto, it was a fluke that was unexpected, but that woman, she was different. She was smarter, faster, and more skilled, and your battle showed it. If you can call that being dominated like that a battle. Kyuubi replied. That defeat was a fluke as well. If I see her again, I will be defeated again. She was better, and if you faced her anytime soon, you would be beaten just as easily. Kyuubi said. I've heard enough if this shit. Naruto said, getting up only for one of Kyuubi's tails to slam down in front of him. Learn your place, boy. I will not be killed because your arrogance has blinded you. Nobody is invincible, boy. There will always be somebody stronger than you, and the faster you learn that, the longer you'll live. Kyuubi barked. To Kyuubi's surprise, Kubikiribocho appeared in Naruto's hand, and before Kyuubi could react, Naruto brought it down on his exposed tail. Kubikiribocho cut through the tail like a through butter, and Kyuubi yelped out in pain as he retracted his stub of a tail. Maybe you should learn, you place fox. You are nothing more than a weapon of mine, and weapons don't give lectures. The faster you learn that, the longer you'll live. Naruto growled as he walked out of the chamber holding Kyuubi in search of a way to exit his subconscious. Chapter 26. Change of Heart. Naruto opened his eyes only for blinding light to overload his optic nerves. The blonde Jinchuriki snapped his eyes shut with a groan. Opting to examine his environment by others means, Naruto inhaled deeply and instantly recognized the strong scent of disinfectant, pain, and death. I hate hospitals. Naruto mumbled and he slowly opened his eyes, giving them time to adjust to the glaring lights in his room. Welcome to the world of the living. Naruto's attention was directed to the window to see Jiraiya sitting on the windowsill with his seemingly ever-present smirk gracing his face. What do you want? Naruto growled as he sat up in his bed. Jiraiya gasped and crocodile tears poured from his eyes as he turned his back to Naruto. That hurts, kid. I find out you're hurt and rush to see you despite being on an important research mission. Yet you think I simply want something. Jiraiya cried, but his act got no sympathy from Naruto, who just rolled his eyes in response. I'm touched you found making sure I'm alive was more important than peeking on nude women in a bathhouse. Naruto replied. Jiraiya grinned sheepishly at being caught. On to other matters, Gaki. I wanted to ask you something. I want to train you. Jiraiya said, drawing a look of confusion from Naruto. Don't you already do that? Naruto asks. Yes, but I mean I want to train you long term out of the village. Jiraiya explained. Why and how long term? Naruto asks. You know about the Akatsuki, you need to be able to handle fighting them, and soon. As for your second question, it really depends on you. Toran told me about your sword, so along with my training I will be taking you to a few friends of mine that can teach you how to use different swords. It could take a couple of years or a couple of decades. Jiraiya replied. Naruto nodded, but before he could respond, a pulse of Kyuubi's chakra exploded out of Naruto. Jiraiya was slammed into the wall as Naruto let out a cry of pain. Just as Jiraiya recovered, Kyuubi's chakra began flooding out of Naruto and began lashing out wildly. The Sannin attempted to get close, but a tail of chakra formed for a moment and hit him with enough force to crash through the wall of Naruto's hospital room and the one on the other side of the hall. Naruto grit his teeth as pain racked his body the entire time, Kyuubi's laughter echoing in his head. What are you doing? Naruto growled. The fox demon continued to laugh as the pain became too much for Naruto and he blacked out. Naruto opened his eyes to find himself standing in front of the cage that held Kyuubi. The blonde watched as the Kyuubi repeatedly slammed into the door with his body while all 9 of his tails swung out of the cage. Seeing Naruto, he stopped and smirked. Welcome back, boy. Kyuubi said with a grin that could have curdled milk. What are you doing? Naruto asked as he glared at the Biju. Oh, that was simply to get you here. Now that you are, we can get down to business. Kyuubi growled. We don't have any business. I'm pretty sure I explained things very clearly the last time I was here. Naruto retorted, but the moment he finished speaking, one of Kyuubi's tails shot out of the cage and attempted to hit Naruto. The blonde gracefully dodged it but wasn't fast enough to avoid the second one and was slammed into the wall behind him. Naruto cried out in pain, but this just caused Kyuubi to start laughing again. You see, boy, there is much we need to discuss. Kyuubi growled as he slammed Naruto into another wall. First things first, I am not your tool. I am Kurama, 9-tailed fox demon and most powerful Biju in existence. Kurama shouted as he continued to slam Naruto in different walls of the room. Then, just as Naruto's corporeal form appeared to be blacking out, Kurama brought Naruto close. Your arrogance sickens me, boy. Your strength has grown and now you believe you are just short of a god. You forget I am the one that protects every time you're too slow to do so yourself. I'm the one who supplies you with power when you're out of chakra. Without me you would be some pathetic excuse for a shinobi, probably running around spewing nonsense. Kyuubi growled before he tossed Naruto's broken form to the water-flooded floors below. So what are you gonna do now? Kill me and take over my body? Naruto spat as he tried to pick himself up only to collapse back to the ground in pain. If only that was a possibility. Your father was a genius. This seal has too many fail-safes for me to simply destroy your mind and take over your body. To be completely honest, this attack on you probably hurt me more than it did you. Kyuubi grunted. I doubt it. Naruto growled as he ignored the pain and stood up shakily. Then what was the point of this? The point of this was to humble you, boy. If I can defeat you this easily, locked behind a cage which caused me pain as I beat you, have no doubt there will be others on this earth that can do the same. Kyuubi replied. That's crap, you're the strongest living demon on this earth. Naruto spat. Yet I was defeated by a mortal man. Your father defeated me even if it cost him his life, and have no mistake, there are other humans on this earth as strong as him and stronger. I will say it again and it would do you well to listen this time. There will always be somebody stronger, that is the way of the world. No matter how strong you get, No, there will always going to be somebody somewhere on a whole other level. Kyuubi said as he eyed Naruto carefully. Unlike last time when Naruto had simply brushed his words aside like lint on his clothing, Naruto nodded with a deep contemplative expression molded on his face. Kyuubi sighed painfully as he moved in a more comfortable position. It would be best for you to go back. The Sennin is about to do something to lock my chakra away. Naruto nodded and he left in silence. Within a few moments Naruto opened eyes to the world outside. Hokage-sama, the boy is a threat. Allow Jiraiya-sama to place his seal on him. Naruto heard from inside his room. With his vision still not just adjusted to the light, it was only Naruto intensely honed reflexes that allowed him to snap his hand up and grab Jiraiya's incoming wrist. Don't do that, Naruto said tiredly. A few seconds later Naruto finally could see that standing in his room were Tsunade, Jiraiya, and two Anbu. One was obviously a captain as he was garbed in a white cloak, a monkey mask, while the other was dressed in regular Anbu attire, with a cat mask to hide her face. Naruto, what happened? Jiraiya asks. Naruto turned to face the white-haired Sannin to see he looked worse for wear. His clothes were torn in multiple places, scratches decorated his body and a large cut on his cheek was slowly dripping blood onto his shirt. What happened to you? Naruto asks. I mean, you got knocked through a few walls, but it looks like you went head to head with the Sanbi. Jiraiya opened his mouth to reply, but the chuckling of Tsunade cut him off. Jiraiya turned around, but the moment he did, Tsunade's laughter instantly stopped and the blonde cage averted her eyes, whistling a merry tune as if completely innocent. Forget about it, kid. Just tell me what went on with you and Kyuubi. Jiraiya said. Nothing, he just wanted to talk to me. Naruto replied. Naruto rolled his eyes when Jiraiya exploded on him about how the blonde needed to tell them the truth when it came to the nine-tailed demon. Quietly summoning a clone outside, Naruto switched with it and casually strolled down the outside wall of the hospital. Seconds later the memories of the clone flashed the Naruto's head and the blonde was engulfed in a swirling inferno just as Jiraiya slammed the window open and looked down at where he had been. Naruto. The blonde smirked as he entered his apartment only to be standing face to face with a disappointed-looking Yamato. The blonde smirk faded as he looked directly into his older brother's eyes. We need to talk, squirt. Yamato said, stepping aside to let Naruto into the apartment. Walking in, Naruto took a seat on their couch while Yamato sat down on a matching club chair next him. Naruto, you were completely out of line. What? You disregarded my orders and attacked without any control of your emotions. Yamato finished cutting the blonde off. Naruto, you're a chunin now and there will be times where others will have to rely on you. You can't just fly off the handle and go on a rampage, you'll put the people who rely on you in danger. Naruto bit back his retort and settled on glaring at the older shinobi. Seeing Naruto's glare, Yamato's stern expression fell and he looked at Naruto with more accepting eyes. Look, I understand. Your team was hurt and you wanted revenge, but you can't just do something reckless like charging a clearly stronger opponent. Next time it will get you killed. Yamato added. Naruto dropped his glare and nodded to the Yamato. You're right, I should have used my head. I'll work on it. Naruto replied, standing up and walking into his room. Yamato didn't reply, instead he simply grabbed a remote and turned the television. Unknown location 2000. Pain-sama, the Gobi has successfully been caught by Kakuzu and his late partner. Likewise, the Nanabi has been sent on a long-term mission. Capturing it now would be ideal. Shrouded in darkness were the silhouettes of 8 people. The one who had spoken appeared to have a Venus fly trap sprouting from his shoulders. I see, it seems we will have to once again find Kakuzu a new partner. Another image stated tonelessly, despite the images all appearing to be distorted in color, his pale blue multi-ringed eyes were clear as the sky on a bright sunny day. Sasori, Deidara, after we seal the Gobi, retrieve the Nanabi. Zetsu, what of the Kyuubi? The man asks. The plant-like man shook his head in before he replied. Unfortunately, he is in the village. Not only that, but I have discovered he will be leaving with Jiraiya of the Sannin to train for an undetermined amount of time. Zetsu replied. I see. Itachi, you and Kisame are to head to Konoha and capture the Kyuubi when the opportunity arises. Pain's ordered surprised everyone, but before anybody could reply he elaborated. Unfortunately, despite not being fully in tune with his demon, the boy is strong. I feel if we don't obtain the boy before this training voyage, capturing him will prove difficult and resource consuming. I see we will try, but with 2 of the Sanin in the village with the boy I cannot promise we will be successful. Itachi said, only to meet the numbing glare and killer intent of Pain. Much to his credit, despite the glare and intent causing many of the other members to flinch back, Itachi didn't bat an eye. Uchiha Itachi, you and Kisame have failed me once. If you two cannot retrieve the boy this time, then you shall face the wrath of a god. Pain stated calmly, though killer intent flooding everybody's system show the real nature of Pain's emotions. Understood. Itachi replied just as his image faded from view. Seconds later, Kisame disappeared as well. Soon every member had left except Pain and the only woman in the group. It was at that moment another figure appeared across from Pain. The only distinguishing part of the man was one visible Sharingan eye. You do realize now having me force him to choose will only end in him leaving our organization. Pain stated to the man, who in turn nodded. Of course, but with Itachi gone, Konoha will no longer have a spy in our inner workings. The man explained. Them being able to readily respond to our attempts on the boy would have annoyed me. Yet with Itachi defecting, we will have to slow our work until Kisame and Kakuzu can be found new capable partners. Pain explained, still trying to figure out the man's logic. It will also allow the boy to leave on his training trip, which I fear will make him strong enough to stand on level ground with any of the us, aside from you and I. You give the boy too much credit, Pain. He will return stronger, but I have faith he will still won't be strong enough to defeat any 2 of our members. The man replied. Have faith. All the Jinchuriki will be captured and then all of world will be in peace. Pain didn't respond. With an unreadable face, he faded along with the woman next to him. The masked man crossed his arms before his image faded as well. Land of Fire, Southern Border 2200. So Itachi, do you have any idea on how we're going to get the brat? Kisame asks. The 2 of them were sitting quietly in a small clearing. A smokeless fire stood burned between them, crackling softly in the warm night air, spitting occasional sparks into the air that faded out of existence after traveling a few feet. Unfortunately, no. We were able to slip into the village due to them recovering from a long battle a few days beforehand. Now security will be tight, prevent incidents like the one we caused to happen again. Itachi replied dully. Kisame glanced at Itachi to see the Uchiha traitor was staring roughly in the direction of Konoha. Do you ever miss it? Kisame asked, turning back to the fire. Itachi didn't respond, so Kisame continued. Konoha, I mean, despite everything you did, do you miss living there, being with friends and loved one? Itachi didn't respond, his gaze cemented in one direction. Kisame shook his head before looking back into the fire. I mean, I understand if you don't, I sure as hell don't miss Kiri. Kisame, I'm sorry. Itachi murmured just as his body dispersed into a flock of crows. I see. Kisame replied, pulling Samahata off his back and holding it defensively. Even if you kill me, I will make sure you won't be walking away from this one. Itachi didn't respond. Instead, a flock of crows shot out from the trees and attacked Kisame. The large man smirked as he ignored them and instead shifted Samahata to the side to block an attack from Itachi's ninjutsu. Itachi, we both know even with your Sharingan I'm the better swordsman. Kisame stated as he shoved Itachi back and followed with a powerful downward slash that Itachi deflected to the ground before coming back with a counter that would cut Kisame apart from the left side of his waist to his right shoulder. Kisame grunted as pulled Samahata out the dirt and brought back just in time to block the killing attack. I know. Kisame, this fighting is useless. Itachi stated, stepping away from Kisame and sheathing his sword. Come with me. With me as your voucher you can seek asylum in Konoha. You're kidding, right? You killed your entire clan in one night. I'm probably more welcome in Konoha than you. Kisame retorted as he hoisted Samahata onto his shoulder. The truth behind the Uchiha massacre is something I can't explain to you, but know that the Hokage knows my loyalty, now and forever, will be with the village. Itachi explained, causing Kisame to quirk an eyebrow. The Sharkman stared at Itachi for a long time before he grunted and put his sword away. All right, but if anybody tries to deaden me, I will personally shred them to pieces. Kisame growled. Itachi only shook his head as he began walking to Konoha. Chapter 27. The Raven and the Viper. Azumo, do you ever get tired of just being the Hokage's errand boys? A young Chunin asked his partner. The two were standing guard at Konoha's main gates, but today nobody but a few genin teams had entered today despite it being well past 4 in the afternoon. Take some pride in your work, Kotestu. Even if we're just errand boys, We have responsibilities that Tsunade-sama trusts us with. Azumo admonished. But come on, we never get good missions anymore. We're the laughing stocks went to every shinobi in the village. Heck, even Tsunade-sama makes fun of us. Kotestu replied. I think you're over-exaggerating just a bit. Azumo replied, a large sweat drop on the back of his head. Have you been sneaking sips of your special syrup? No. Maybe a little. Kotestu murmured quietly. Azumo's sweat drop doubled in size before he glanced at two people walking into the village and froze upon recognizing them. What? Kotestu asked, turning to see Itachi looking at him with a calm expression while Kisame flashed them a toothy grin. The two had did away with their Atakaski robes and now Itachi sported the tradition Anbu attire save for the mask, and Kisame was wearing the same thing except in a more grayish blue color. Kotestu. Azumo, it's been a long time. Itachi said before he and Kisame walked on. The two Chunin stood in silence before Kotestu strung through a series of jutsu and spat a small blue fireball into the air. A ghost of a smile appeared on Itachi's face when he and Kisame were instantly surrounded by 12 Anbu sporting the white cloak of a captain. Getting cocky, traitor. Walking straight through the gates like this is nothing short of suicide for you. The monkey-masked Anbu captain said as he stepped forward brandishing his Anbu-issue ninjutsu before he glanced at Kisame, who was grinning. Hoshigaki-san, surrender now and you won't die. Unfortunately you don't have enough men here to take me down, let alone Itachi. Kisame said, causing the Anbu to tense and prepare for battle. Wait, we're not here to fight, take me to Hokage-sama. Itachi said before he walked up to the monkey-masked captain. The Anbu growled and extended his arm out, placing the tip of his blade to Itachi's neck. Itachi didn't respond, but the captain's blood ran cold when he felt somebody warm breath neck to his ear. Hakunaha, platinum leaf. Itachi murmured, causing the captain to jolt in surprise. It was at this moment that the stunned Anbu sprung at Itachi. Stop! The captain shouted as one of members got within striking range, causing the Anbu to freeze in mid-attack. Rabbit, take your squad back to your posts. My unit will escort Itachi and Kisame to the Hokage. Monkey stated. Rabbit nodded before he signaled to his squad and they jumped onto the roofs. The remaining 6 Anbu including Monkey formed a barrier around the two missing, and with a simple motion the group blurred out of view. Teammate, I'm sorry, but there are no mission for you today unless you would like to partake in your team's first D-rank mission. Tora needs to be retrieved once more. Tsunade said with slight irritation in her voice. After the initial surprise of being informed by Jiraiya that Anko refused to have her team perform D-rank missions, Tsunade had tried multiple times to get teammate to take one. It annoyed her that Sarutobi had allowed it to slide when even her team had taken around 20 D-rank missions. No, Naruto will probably kill that little demon 10 minutes into the mission. Anko replied as she and her team turned around and opened the door only to come face to face with Itachi Uchiha and Kisame Hoshigaki, who were encircled by a contingent of Anbu. The four stood in shock at seeing the two simply standing there, one with a calm look, the other with a smirk on his face. Well, hello brat, how? Oh ho, where did you get Zabuza-chan's sword? Kisame asked, his eyes falling on the sheathed blade on Naruto's back. The blonde snapped out of his daze and growled. I ripped it from his cold, dead corpse in the most literal way possible. Naruto replied in a dark tone. Kisame smirked as he turned his full attention to the blonde. So you're a grave robber, huh? I didn't know Konoha shinobi worked that way. Kisame said with a small chuckle. I'm not like most Konoha shinobi. Naruto snorted. Beside taking this sword and using it to its full potential is doing Zabuza far more respect than let his most prized possession rust away, forgotten in time. You got a point, Kisame said after a moment of silence. It was at this moment Tsunade finally spoke up. Team 8, you're dismissed. Monkey, you and your team stay. The blonde Hokage ordered. With a curt nod, Team 8 exited the room while Itachi and Kisame entered with the Anbu right behind them. Training ground 44. 5 hours later. Well, brats, we're about done for the day, so rest up and meet here at 0500 tomorrow. Anko said, her eyes resting on her team. The three looked like they had ran laps around Konoha, then took a sprint around the entire border of Fire Country. Hinata, dead on her feet, was drenched in sweat and using Naruto as support to stay standing. Shino had out his staff and was leaning on it like it was the only thing keeping him up, while even Naruto was sweating profusely and panting heavily. Then as if the dam had broken, Naruto collapsed, taking down Hinata, who fell on Shino's staff, causing the Aburame to lose his hold on it and drop to the ground as well. Anko chuckled lightly as she leapt off in the direction of the village. Too tired to move, the three laid sprawled on the forest floor trying to catch their breath when two Anbu landed at their feet. One was garbed in a black cloak with a raven mask on, while the other opted to keep off the cloak and to show his huge frame and large sword wrapped in bandages while he wore a shark mask. You know, even if you acquire the masks, it doesn't conceal your identity if specific traits, weapons, and anomalies are distinguishable. Shino panted out as he glanced at Samahata and the shark mask. We really weren't trying to hide from you three brats, Kisame said as he moved his mask to reveal his grinning face. Then why are you here? Obviously there are more details to the Uchiha massacre than the public was granted access to if you two aren't locked behind bars. Hinata said, cutting straight to the point. Yes, but we're not at liberty to discuss that with you three, Itachi replied. Actually, I'm here to talk to you specifically, Naruto. The blonde sat up and looked up, stared straight into Itachi's eyes before smirking. Is it about what I did to your brother? Kisame smirked, but it instantly faded when the area became thick with poorly contained killer intent. Yes, astute as ever, Naruto, Itachi said, his calm visage never once fading, yet the killer intent increasing with every second. While I'm not going to do anything this time, from now on you will leave my brother's affairs to me. I will handle him and any problem he causes for Konoha. Are we clear? Naruto nodded silently. Despite the killer intent being far less potent than that of the demon that resided in him, Naruto knew Itachi could deliver any underlying threat of pain he was sending with just one glance. Itachi nodded and the killer intent faded instantly, and everybody released the breaths they didn't know they were holding. Come on, Kisame, we have things to do, Itachi said calmly. Not even waiting for Kisame to respond, Itachi burst into a flock of crows that flew off into the canopy. Later, brats, Kisame said before his body became water and fell to the ground with a small splash. The three stayed silent for a moment until Shino let out a sigh. My intuition tells me this won't be the final altercation you and Itachi have, he murmured, adjusting his shades on his nose. You're probably right, Naruto replied. We should be heading back to the village. Hinata and Shino nodded, and together the three tired shinobi walked back home. The next day, 1200. The entire village was in uproar. It took no time at all for the citizens shinobi or not to learn Itachi Uchiha had returned to Konoha, and the general reaction was effectively split into two sections. Those who had called for Itachi's immediate execution, this consisted mainly of civilians, and shinobi who weren't as well informed, and those who simply wanted to hear from Itachi about what happened. This group consisted entirely of shinobi who had known or worked with Itachi and had always believed there was more to the Uchiha massacre based on Itachi's character. You had to just walk right in, huh? Tsunade grumbled to Itachi, who, along with Kisame, was seated across from her in her office. You're one of the best shinobi in the world, and it never crossed your mind to sneak into the village and find me. That's what I said, but Itachi said he didn't feel right about sneaking back into his home. Kisame explained. It doesn't matter anyway. You two have a special mission. Jiraiya is leaving with Naruto in a week and you two are to accompany them, Tsunade stated. What, I'm not a babysitter. Why does the Jiraiya need our help to watch the brat? Kisame asked with a groan. He doesn't need your help, he really only asked for Itachi, but if you don't want to come, I have other things you can do while Itachi is away, Tsunade said with devious smirk. The look in her eyes sent a chill down Kisame's back. Fuck. Fine, I'll do it, Kisame replied. Good, you're dismissed, Tsunade said with a chuckle. With slight gulp, Kisame exited the room. With Kisame gone, Itachi finally decided to speak up. Why did Jiraiya ask for me to come with him on this mission? Itachi asked, getting straight to the point. His main reason was to help teach Naruto. The pervert said, with Naruto's main element being wind and his being earth. After helping Naruto learn the rest of his father's jutsu, there's really not much more Jiraiya could have taught him, Tsunade said. Really, Jiraiya will probably be the least involved in Naruto's training. So Jiraiya wants me there to teach him any wind jutsu I know, Itachi asks. That, and I want you to work on the kid's stealth. Him and Jiraiya are about as subtle as a bullhorn, Tsunade added. Itachi nodded as a small smile appeared on his face. I'll do it, Itachi stated before walking out of Tsunade's office. You would think people would be happy we have an Uchiha back in the village, especially since it's the good one. Naruto said, sitting at a table at a large table in one of the dango shops Anko frequently visited. Among him were the other rookie 9 minus Sasuke along with Guy's team. In a rare occurrence, all the teams had gotten the day off and Ino had suggested that they spend the day together. Itachi's a traitor, of course people would want him dead. Sakura retorted, biting back her response about Naruto, implying Itachi was better than Sasuke. Troublesome. Come on Sakura, if Itachi was simply a traitor Tsunade would have had him executed by now. Shikamaru replied in a bored tone. Shikamaru, right. Obviously there is more to the massacre than we know. Neji added. I don't know, the village really loves their Uchihas. If we had brought Sasuke back he would have just got a slap on the wrist and everything would have been fine. Kiba retorted. If you think about it, Kiba's right. Sasuke had betrayed the village. Don't say anything Sakura. Tenten said, stopping Sakura, who had her mouth partially open in a reply. And most people wanted to believe he was just captured. It doesn't matter really, Hokage-sama will probably explain what really happened and Itachi will be forgiven by the people. Ino said. Everybody nodded in agreement. Anybody down for a little sparring? Kiba asked as he stood up to stretch. Yosh, I would love to partake in a youthful spar, Kiba-san. Lee shouted, jumping out of his chair. That sounds troublesome. Shikamaru replied as he got up as well. Hinata, fight me. Neji calmly stated, drawing the attention of everybody. Naruto, who had been talking quietly to Hinata, growled, but Hinata placed her hand on his shoulder to calm him down. Why do want to fight me, Neji-ni-san? Hinata asked quietly. You know exactly why. Neji barked. Hinata sighed and glanced around at everybody who was looking at her with bated breaths. Fine. She replied, then walked out the shop, Naruto and Shino at her sides, the rest of their party walking behind her. The walk was casual but the tension in the group was thick. Naruto and Shino were angered and hiding it poorly. A low yet clear buzzing was coming from Shino while occasional wisps of red chakra were flowing out of Naruto. This caused the remaining Konoha 11 to give Team 8 a wide berth. Only Neji dare stay well within the two angered men's vision. Which only led to angering them even more. Yet before Naruto and Shino could act, the group reached the training grounds. The grounds were fairly simple in design. A large stream ran through the center of the grounds. Near the entrance, on the edge of the stream, was a large patch of land worn down to dirt from constant use. On one end of the land were 3 training posts, on the other end the dirt returned to grass for a ways, then a few trees grew. On the other side of the river a grassy patch of land grew, and then the training ground was walled off by a cliff. So are you ready, Ni-san? Hinata asked, walking into the center of the field. Neji scoffed as he stood a reasonable distance in front of Hinata. So who's going to ref this rumble? Kiba asked, plopping down onto the grass. Shikamaru. Ino replied flatly. Said Chunin turned his teammate, showing more emotion in his glare than he had ever had the energy to do. She's right, Shika. Our team is the most neutral and you clearly have the best jutsu to subdue a person. Choji added. Shikamaru turned his glare toward Choji for a second, then sighed, defeated. Troublesome. Fine, the rules are simple. Fight until one of you is incapacitated and no fatal moves. If I see the fight is becoming one-sided, then I will stop it, but it's a judgment, so don't expect me to bail you out at the first sign of trouble. Shikamaru explained. You may begin. Hinata paid no attention to Shikamaru as he leapt over to the rest of the group, who had spaced themselves around the area Kiba had sat down at, save for Naruto and Shino, who found shade under a tree a few yards away from the group. Hinata, it is time I show you that you are not exempt from fate. Neji said, dropping into a perfect Hyuga taijutsu stance. Hinata didn't respond, instead she dropped into what appeared to be the snake stance. Her body was low to the ground, so low that her right knee was bent lower than a 90-degree angle. Her other leg was straight ahead with her foot resting on its side. Neji paused for a moment, surprised like everybody except Shino and Naruto. It appears Hinata has completed her new taijutsu style. Shino said to Naruto. No, but she's comfortable enough with it to try it out against Neji. Naruto replied. Why did Hinata learn a new taijutsu form? Ino asked, being the closest to the two members of Team 8. Most members of the Hyuga clan have an affinity toward Earth. Naruto started. This being so, the Juken style was created based off the properties of Earth and Earth Jutsu, so that most of the family would have a natural comfort with the style. Hinata's affinity though is water and as such Juken is not suited for her. So she can't learn it. Sakura asks. And you were supposed to be the smart one. Naruto grumbled. No, Hinata is fully capable of mastering and utilizing the Juken with the same efficiency as Neji. What Naruto is simply saying is that Hinata would never be uncomfortable fighting with the style so she developed her own. Shino explained. Mamushiken, Naruto said. A combination of Hibiken and Juken. It relies on quick strikes, counters, and striking at angles that your opponent wouldn't expect. It's fluid like water and as such Hinata is perfect for it. And she's been working on it since she joined our team after seeing Anko-sensei fight. We're surprised she good enough to use it against Neji. With that said, Naruto and Shino turned back to see Hinata and Neji engaged in heated combat. Neji seemed intent to keep Hinata on the defensive as he was pressing hard on the attack. Yet despite this, Hinata seemed content to just dodge and redirect each of Neji's attacks. This appeared to anger the Hyuga prodigy because a scowl was steadily growing on his face and his attacks were becoming more wild and powerful until chakra was actually visibly glowing on his fingertips. It was at the moment everything seemed to freeze. Everybody stopped breathing, nobody moved, and even the river and the breeze seemed to fade. Hinata and Neji stood right next to each other, their faces only a foot apart. Then a stream of blood trickled out the corner of Neji's lips and the world span once more. What happened? Ino asks. It was so fast. Kiba said in awe. This fighting style is dangerous. When Neji made a mistake most would have missed. Hinata stepped into his guard and delivered a strike right to his lungs. Neji needs to calm down or he will be defeated easily. Lee explained. No, this is already over. Hinata is about to start fighting now. Naruto said just loud enough for everybody to hear. Instead of questioning the blonde, the group turned back to see Hinata had back away from Neji and had retook her stance. Well, Hinata, I'm impressed this new fighting is effective. Neji wiping the blood from his chin. But now that I know what your limits are, this fight is over. Upon ending his sentence, Neji charged. In an instant Neji was on Hinata, his attacks coming swiftly and flawlessly. Yet this time Hinata was taking an offensive as well. She was moving in and out of Neji guard, striking in any and every hole in Neji's defense. Flowing around Neji's attack and landing blows in unprotected areas she would create by doing so. Soon signs began to show on Neji. More blood began to leak out Neji's mouth, sweat was dripping off his body. His moves were becoming slow and ragged. Enough. Neji growled. With a powerful pulse of chakra, the Hyuga prodigy opened up his closed chakra points and dropped into a stance similar to Hinata's. You're in my range. Hinata's eyes widened as Neji appeared in front her, poised to strike. But the recently banished Hyuga surprised Neji when she simply spat in his face, causing him stumble, giving her the opening to kick him away. With the group, Kiba had erupted in laughter after seeing how Hinata countered one of the Hyuga clan's most techniques. Ha ha, oh god, ha she spat in his face, ha 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 ha. Kiba cried out. The Inuzuka was holding his side as he rolled in the grass laughing. Though nobody reacted as dramatically as Kiba, they were finding it hard not to laugh. I suggest you tread lightly, Naruto. She seems to be adopting more traits from Anko as the two train together more often. Shino said. I know, right? He next thing you know she'll be sending snakes after you step out of line. Kiba agreed, still laughing lightly. I'm sorry Neji-Nisan, but this is where this fight ends. Hinata said, speeding a series of hand signs that Naruto recognized instantly. Summoning jutsu. Hinata was covered in a cloud of smoke. When it cleared, Hinata had two large gray and yellow vipers by her side. Naruto froze. Never in life had he feared anything. He had faced down Orochimaru with no fear, only been slightly intimidated by Itachi Uchiha. Yet looking at the girl he had proclaimed he might love being flanked by two large snake, the blonde Jinchuriki couldn't help but shiver. Hello Rakurai. Boruto, it's time for that move we've been working on. Hinata said, glancing at Neji, who was still getting up, slowly killing intent flooding out of him in waves. Just as Neji got up, Hinata flashed through a series of hand signs. Water style. Lightning snake, Hinata yelled, spitting a large jet of water at Neji. The two snakes grazed their fangs across the stream of water, and suddenly lightning danced inside the water that turned into a large snake that bared its fangs at Neji before engulfing him whole. Neji let out muffled cries of pain as he was drowned and electrocuted at the same time. When the jutsu stopped, Neji was laying on his back, arms and legs flailing around as his muscles spasmed randomly. Seeing Hinata complete her jutsu, sudden images of the young Hyuga chasing him around atop the head of a giant snake caused Naruto to break downing in a cold sweat. You alright, Naruto? Choji asked, seeing the Uzumaki sweating despite the cool weather. Yeah, Naruto replied stoically. Note to self: be sure not to irritate Hinata in the foreseeable future. I don't think it even needs to be said, but Hinata is the winner, Shikamaru said, his eyes focused on the clouds in the sky. Neji Nisan, I know right now you are confused, but you have to realize fate doesn't control lives, fate is made. Yes, you were named clan heir, but it was not fate that decided that. Your hard work, skill, and my father's wish to repent for the death of your father gave you that gift. I hope you realize that soon. Hinata said, bowing to Neji, then walking off to where Naruto and Shino were sitting. Your match was impressive. When did Anko allow you to sign the snake summoning contract? Shino asks. A few days before the Chunin exams, but I haven't been able to summon anything but tiny garter snakes until after Tsunade-sama healed me. Hinata replied. Unknown location 6 days later. Pain, I fear if we allow the Kyuubi Jinchuriki to train, then he will become too powerful for us to handle in the future. A blue-haired woman murmured. She was talking to not the Pain the Akatsuki members were used to, but a man hooked into a machine who had multiple rods protruding from his back. The man looked extremely underfed, his body was nothing more than skin and bone. His long red hair was faded and unkempt. Conan, you give the child too much credit, but if it satisfies you, then I will have Zetsu send his black half to personally monitor the boy as he trains. Pain wheezed. Conan looked unsure but nodded anyways. Konoha. Next day, 0700. 3 figures stood at the gates of Konoha. The tallest of the 3 stood arms crossed, impatiently tapping his foot as his spiky white hair flowing gracefully in the breeze. Jiraiya-sama, relax, he will be here. One of the figures stated calmly. He was the shortest of the 3 and like the other was garbed in full Anbu gear. The Gaki was supposed to be here an hour ago. Jiraiya groaned. How can you be so relaxed, Itachi? The other Anbu asks. His large sword strapped to his back. Because I knew Naruto-kun would be late, Kisame. Itachi said. You're a clone, aren't you? Kisame asks. The clone nodded before it dispersed. I hate them both. Jiraiya growled. Kisame could only nod in agreement. Moment later, both Itachi and Naruto arrived. Naruto was smirking slightly, though you had to look close to notice. His clothing was slightly disheveled while there was a visible hickey on the side of his neck. Wow, Gaki, did your girl give you a nice long goodbye? Jiraiya asked, grinning perversely. Naruto's smirk faded and he rolled his eyes. Are we going to handle the weed problem? Kisame murmured to Itachi. The Uchiha prodigy shook his head. I already have it covered. Itachi replied. So where to first, pervert? Naruto asked as the group walked out of the village. The land of iron. Jiraiya replied. Redemption of the Namikaze. Brief summary: when Minato Namikaze looks from the Kyuubi to his critically wounded wife Kushina and crying newborn Naruto, he realizes his family means more than his village. So in a desperate move, the hero of Konoha leaves it to burn in order to keep his family alive. Now the most hated shinobi in 2 villages, the Namikaze family must redeem themselves somehow. Chapter 1: Family above all else. You are stronger than I anticipated, Namikaze-san. A man panted. He was garbed in a red cloak with an orange swirling mask on. The mask only had one eye, revealing an eye with a red iris and 3 swirling tomo around the pupil. The cloak figure was speaking to another man who was glaring heavily at him. The man had bright spiky blonde hair and striking blue eyes. The man was garbed in the traditional Junin attire, but on top of his Junin uniform he sported a white short-sleeved long coat that went down to his knees. The coat was decorated with red flames on the bottom and the kanji Yondaime Hokage written on the back. In one arm the man held a tiny newborn baby. But unfortunately it matters not, because I have already released the Kyuubi. Now your wife will die and your village will burn. The cloak figure stated victoriously. The blonde didn't respond, instead he vanished in a bright yellow flash. When the man reappeared, he was next to a red-haired woman who looked dead on feet. Her hair was dull and lifeless, her skin was pale to the point that it looked almost gray, and a steady stream of blood was dribbling out the corner of her mouth. Kushina-chan, get to the hospital, I will handle it from here. The man murmured, his heart breaking as he looked upon his dying wife. No, Minato-kun, you need me. You can't take on the Kyuubi alone. Kushina snapped, though she looked like she would collapse any moment. Minato shook his head and sighed. Stubborn to the end, dear. Minato replied, drawing a sad chuckle from his wife. Yet their laughter seemed to wake the baby, who began to cry due to all the noise that had disturbed it. The baby instantly snapped the two from their moment. Kushina go when I go, Naruto-chan will need somebody to take care of him. Minato said seriously. Yet this only made the woman pause for a second. I know, but me being there for Naruto won't matter, he can't successfully seal the Kyuubi. And for that you need me there. Kushina said, her tone not giving any room for argument. Minato shook his, then took hold of his wife, and the three disappeared in a yellow flash. This time the three appeared right in front of a giant fox monster. The beast had blood-red fur and 9 red tail flailing wildly behind it. Before the beast could respond, Minato touched it and the entire group disappeared, only to reappear miles away from the village it was attacking. The creature growled and brought one of its tails down to crush the family, but they had vanished in a yellow flash. Minato-kun, Kushina-chan, what the hell? When the family had reappeared in front of two women. One appeared to be in her early 30s and had sandy blonde hair. She was wearing black pants, a green jacket and high-heel sandals. The other girl seemed to be around 10 with jet black hair and was wearing a purple kimono. Yeah, Minato, what the hell? Kushina asked, just as confused as the two women. Tsunade, I'll explain later, just heal my wife now, please. Minato said, gesturing to Kushina. The blonde nodded and her hands began to glow green as she set to work healing Kushina. A few hours later Tsunade finished and it clearly showed. The color had returned to Kushina's skin and hair. While the woman didn't necessarily look ready to fight any major battles, she didn't look like she was going to die anytime soon. Alright, pretty boy, your wife will be fine. Explain to me why you're not at Konoha sitting in your office. Tsunade demanded. Bossan, the Kyuubi was set free by Madara Uchiha. I fought him, but I had to return to the village to defeat the beast. Yet when I confronted it I just couldn't. Minato explained dejectedly. Minato words struck Tsunade like an anvil. The moment she recovered from the shock, the only thing she could feel was rage. Rage directed at the blonde who had abandoned her home. What do you mean you couldn't face it? You mean you just left to Konoha to just handle the strongest of the Biju alone? Tsunade yelled. Tsunade, I couldn't, my wife was dying and I knew I would have to sacrifice my life to seal the beast in my son. I just couldn't do that. You worthless coward, you left your village just because you were afraid to die. Tsunade growled. No, I would die in a second to protect the ones I love. It's just dying to seal the Kyuubi would only hurt Naruto and kill Kushina, and they are the two people I care the most for. Minato said, bringing his family to him. The yelling finally seemed to upset baby Naruto as he began to wail in his mother's arms. Seeing this, Tsunade understood why Minato couldn't destroy his family for Kushina. I understand. I don't like what you did, but I understand that family comes above all else. Tsunade said. But what now? There is no way in hell you can go back to Konoha, and you have too many enemies to just wander the lands like Shizune and I. While you were healing Kushina I thought of a plan, but I need you to take care of Kushina and Naruto while I'm gone. Hinata said. Tsunade nodded, but that answer didn't satisfy her or Kushina. Where are you going? The two women asked. Mizu no Kuni. Minato replied before he disappeared in a yellow flash. Despite saying that he was going to Mizu, the blonde shinobi had reappeared just outside of Konoha. The moment he looked upon his old home his heart bled. The village was reduced to rubble. Buildings lay demolished on the street. Bodies of dead or dying shinobi littered the destruction. Even the Hokage monument had not survived. All the faces were reduced to unidentified craters in the side of the mountain. Oh my, Minato whispered. Then just as Minato was about to leave he felt multiple chakra signatures approaching his position. Thinking quickly, Minato began to use his finger to write on his arm. Sealing art. False identity. Minato before he channeled chakra into his seal. The blonde was instantly transformed into a younger shinobi who had dark brown hair and green eyes. The shinobi lacked the best of a Chunin and Junin, so he was presumed genin. As the signatures came closer, the now transformed Minato his inside a nearby destroyed building. What are casualties? A voice asks. Minato looked to see an elderly man walking through the wreckage with a group cloaked shinobi. Minato instantly recognized Hiruzen Sarutobi and the elite Anbu Black Ops squad. Hiruzen-sama, we have lost over half over total forces, but only a third of that were comprised of Anbu Junin and Chunin. The Anbu replied. So we lost most of our youth. Hiruzen said with a sigh. The Anbu nodded silently. Tell me of the Junin we lost. We lost the Inuzuka clan head Ryokan as well as the Akamichi clan head Chuza. Ibiki Morino, Ko Hyuga, Maki Yakushi, Hazashi Hyuga and Rin Moya were all confirmed dead. Anybody else will be deemed Mia by tomorrow morning. The Anbu answered sadly. I see Inu go collect the civilian from the chambers in the mountain and all remaining shinobi. I have something I must say. Hiruzen ordered. The Anbu nodded and then he and his squad jumped onto the rubble to the mountain. You can come out now, young one. Hiruzen said. Minato hesitantly walked out of the building and up to the former cage. Did you lose family, child? Hiruzen asked sadly. Minato slowly nodded head, remembers all the names the shinobi that were confirmed dead. I apologize, young one. It seems the Yondaime disappeared on us in our hour of need. Sarutobi said, spitting out Yondaime like it was poison. Did he have a good reason? Minato asks. No reason on earth is good enough to give that coward the right to condemn our village the way he did. Hiruzen growled. But the Yondaime is a good person. What if it was for his family? Minato continued, hoping to get Hiruzen to see reason. His family be damned. Why should they live just so we could die? Hiruzen yelled, alerting multiple shinobi in the area. I see. Minato replied quietly. By now there were a few shinobi surrounding the two, yet Minato had a bubbling rage inside him. Faster than anybody could react, Minato slammed Hiruzen by throat into a nearby destroyed building. His jutsu faded, causing a few shinobi to gasp and others to gasp. You know, when I left in order to protect my family, I regretted doing so because I knew Konoha would be destroyed, but talking to you has cleared things up, Sarutobi-san. This village didn't deserve the sacrifice my son, wife, and I were going to make. Minato spat. The blonde looked around. Some of the shinobi had backed off, but more of them had readied weapons in preparation to strike down the former cage. Be warned. Hate me as much as you like, but if any Konoha shinobi lays a finger on my family, then I will make sure this village wades knee-high through its own blood. It was at that moment the shinobi brandish weapons sprung into action, but it was too late. Minato was engulfed in a yellow flash before he was gone. With the pressure removed from his neck, Sarutobi collapsed onto his knees, gasping for air. Two shinobi instantly were at his side, helping the veteran to his feet. When the Sandaime Hokage finally caught his breath, a deep scowl made its way onto his face. He then growled, from this day forward, Minato Namikaze is to be placed in our bingo book as a S-ranked missing ninja. That's it for this part. If you enjoyed it, then like, share and subscribe for the next video, as it's going to be more interesting, and also check out my other playlists. Hope you would like them too.